You are listening to Core, a show on Code Zero Radio that plays bands located in the Fox Cities, a show to find and discover new music. Hosted by Andy McNamara.
Hello everybody, my guest this morning wears many hats. He's an animator, a director, an author, musician, and one of the best storytellers I know. He's been involved in music for most of his life. For a while he worked as a West Coast musician for country western performers, and later on he did some really cool session work at Smart Studios in Madison. He also co-directed a movie called The Life of Reilly, which I watched last night and really enjoyed, and authored the book Wicked Fox Cities. And that's only scraping the surface. I'd like to welcome Frank Anderson to Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. How you doing, Frank?
Real good.
I want to start out by saying I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I find you fascinating. Like you've lived a life that I wish I could get into your head and just live myself.
Oh, you left out the part where I was a ranch hand, a real one.
Was that on the West Coast?
Yeah, on a huge cattle ranch. Yeah.
I want to talk about where you were born first. You were born in the Philippines. Is that accurate?
Well, that's very accurate. 1 second. I don't like wearing the headphones. Okay, now. Yes, I was born in the Philippines on Basilan Island, which is right next to Borneo. It's the southern part of the Philippines.
And why were your parents out that way?
My dad was in the lumber business. He had been there previously in World War II. He was a PT boat commander, and his PT base for a while was on that island. So he already knew everybody there when he returned. And he returned to the Philippines from my favorite town, Menasha.
And so that is the connection then. What is that what brought you back to the Fox Cities eventually, or what?
No. Marriage brought me back to the Fox Cities. My parents' hometown is near Madison.
Okay.
And among a lot of people, I'm a Madisonian, even though I've lived here 34 years.
And after the Philippines, well, first of all, I know you've got a brother. Do you have any others?
I have two brothers. One passed away. I have one brother. Yeah.
That's Peter?
Peter, yeah.
Great. And then after the Philippines, you moved back to
Deerfield, Wisconsin, and then Madison.
When did you get into guitar?
Well, that's because of my older brothers. I was very lucky. I had real cool older brothers who took me to concerts when I was ridiculously underage. So I got to see a lot of bands that people 10 years older than me would see normally. What are you doing? There you go.
One man show here, Frank. Adjustments. But so anyways.
Where were we?
We were talking about when you got into music, playing guitar.
Oh, I flipped out over an instrument called a pedal steel guitar when I was about 12. We just got back from the Philippines, and my oldest, Peter, was a country rock fan, and that was the thing at that time. And there was, this is before the Eagles, by the way, before they came in and turned it to Drek. And I agree with the dude 100%. So I started playing lap steel, and then one wonderful Christmas, a pedal steel showed up on my front door, and it's been my instrument ever since.
And you started playing in bars and stuff when you're 17?
Right away. No, younger. I started playing right away, within months of getting a pedal steel. And I played at the tail end of the classic country era. And it's funny to me, nobody knows what that is, right? Except record collectors. And classic country is Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash. That was ending when I began, and new sounds were coming in. But I could play in 3-4 different... I played with old guys, way younger than me today. I'm talking about 31-year-olds, And I was 15. And I played with a lot of bands. I had my own band. They were called the Oakpark Boys. I was a part of in Deerfield, Wisconsin. We were all the same age. And we had a lot of fun. And we played a weird combination of rock and roll and polka and country western that I later learned was endemic to our region. A writer later called it, James Leary called it Norwegian polkabilly. We had no idea at the time. It's just everybody.
Norwegian polkabilly.
Yeah, Norwegian polkabilly. Where Deerfield is set in everybody's Norwegian. When I came back, old people still spoke Norwegian. But a very famous band was there, folk music-wise, called the Goose Island Ramblers. And they'd been around since the 1930s. They were a fiddle, an accordion, and a guitar. And they gained national fame in the inner circle of folk music enthusiasts. And they were our local band. I mean, you could see them any night of the week you wanted. They played the town festival and all that sort of stuff. But they are the pioneers of what is now known as Norwegian polkabilly. And it rubbed off on us.
So is that what moved you towards the accordion? Are you doing the accordion?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. The accordion player for the Goose Island, you're good. The accordion player for the Goose Island Ramblers was a guy named Bruce Ballerud. And he was amazing. And here's why he was amazing. He could imitate a drunk guy playing the accordion beautifully. He'd sing a song called the Milwaukee Waltz. You can look it up. But he'd sing the whole thing and he'd weave around. What the Goose Island Ramblers did was they put on a show. The fiddler, George Gilbertson, was my favorite steel guitar player. He played a dobro, but he attacked the instrument. He wasn't Johnny Lightfingers. He attacked it. He killed it. He was rock and roll on that thing, and I love that. I'll get later on my diatribe against soft music. But, they rocked. They had a show. They took the audience with them. In the middle of the show, they do you know a song called the Orange Blossom Special?
I do not.
It's a fiddler's showpiece, and it's all about a train, and it has a great 1-4-5 progression that the audience goes nuts over. Well, I'd go see them at a place called Johnny's Packer Inn on BB, right in Madison, as you come into Madison. I lived right next to Madison, and that was the highlight of every night. So George Gilbertson would be playing the Orange Blossom Special, and the last time through, one of the guys would come up with a pitcher of beer, and he'd repeat it, the whole damn thing, and drink the entire pitcher of beer. That's show business. I never forgot it, and it influenced my act later on when I became part of a popular band in Madison when I was 17.
What was the name of that band?
Buzz Gunderson.
Buzz Gunderson.
If you want to know who Buzz Gunderson is, in the movie Rebel Without a Cause, he's the guy that goes over the cliff in the famous chicken race. And we started out as a country rock band, but man, boring. That's boring to me. We got into rock and roll and R&B, and I love playing horn parts on the pedal steel and organ parts on the pedal steel. And because of George Gilbertson's showmanship from my hometown, I ended up playing steel upside down. Very few steel guitars survived me because we used to end our set. I'd throw it up in the air, bam, on the last note, and go, oh, and it was really fun. And I was a kid, and I'd play it on its side, and we rocked. When it was time to call a soft song, I'd get very upset. I'd kind of sit out.
So you feel that Appleton's
in danger.
Yeah, but
who do I tell? Appleton's in danger.
Over that's good.
Danger. I have this to say. Appleton is in danger of not rocking. Everybody's all of a sudden into soft music. Everybody I know, they've gone into themselves. Maybe it's a pandemic. But certain, we have wonderful bands. We have your band, Pudge, and we had Tenement. I don't know. They don't play anymore, but they rocked. And I'd go anywhere to hear them rock.
Do you feel that Mile of Music has kind of made people want to play more like soft rock?
I don't know. Or have we imported all these soft people? I don't know. So some play heavy. I don't. Maybe I didn't see the bands that rock, but I'm talking about Appleton artists right now, getting real soft. Listening to things like Steely Dan. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good.
Do you feel that there is a way to fix this problem?
We need a new generation dedicated to rock.
So looking at what's popular in the mainstream right now, it does seem like there's a lot of, like if you turn on the radio, it's a lot of synthesizers.
Which radio?
Let's say the FM terrestrial, like top, WAPL, they're playing still. They've moved up a decade to playing 90s and early 2000s.
They've moved into the 90s?
Yes, they have.
I just heard Dreamboat Annie. It was just on my radio.
But do you feel it's just what sort of ebb and flow we're sort of going through right now that will eventually come out of strong? Which will get me to the Smart Studios stuff in a little bit.
Well, we need that. But we don't have the raw material to do that. We don't have any rocking bands. We're young kids. They're not rocking. And I've seen a lot of good ones here. And they've either broken up or moved away or lost the nerve. Is it an oppressive thing, Are we being forced to be soft?
You've been in your fair share of projects. Is there a reason that you think bands normally break up? Is there...
They just break up because they break up. Someone's always pissed off at somebody else. I can think of a million reasons. Jealousy, huge thing. I saw a great Madison band long ago break up because one of their guys actually knew what he was doing, and he was getting them great gigs and pushing. They had a real record long ago, and pushing it correctly and getting airplay, and the other guys hated that. That doesn't even make sense to me.
It's like sabotage from inside.
Right. And I think people sabotage themselves all the time.
Well, then let's talk about let's talk about the West Coast. We didn't even, there's so much to cover. So for a while, you're out on the West Coast doing session work for country artists.
Not session work. Well, I played a lot of session work. I played on an album that, everyone from Elvin Bishop to people who had like one or two country hits and were up and coming at that time. Yeah.
Is that something that you enjoyed at the time? I know.
No.
Was it just a way to make a living at the time?
Right.
And was it mostly steel guitar that you were playing in these projects?
Yeah, and except for Elvin Bishop, he let me play like I play, which I don't, because people hear the sound of the pedal steel a certain way in their head, and they want you to basically be the icing on the cake, and that's like stabbing me with a cold steel knife. I prefer duos and trios, and I can handle it. I can do the rhythm. I normally play but it's so long ago that I did this on a regular basis. But when I played in Madison, I had two Fender twins, a Leslie. One of the twins was distorted as hell. I handled the cross picking, so I do bass rhythm, and riffs and supportive riffs. And that's what I loved and what I'm used to. I'm not your guy for near, all over the tip top of I hate high notes.
And it's pedal steel guitar is like one of those things. Everybody seems like guitarists are a dime a dozen. Seems like drummers are kind of hard to find, but what you were doing, like even in the Fox Cities, I'm sure there's more pedal.
Oh, sure.
I know Reilly and I know you are the two that I'm aware of, but do you find yourself getting called for a lot of projects because it's a more unique sort of instrument?
Yeah, because it's a special effect or something like that, yeah.
So after the work out on the West Coast, which you posted a picture a while back, which was great. It was you performing with one of the artists out there, and he had a big, huge head of hair.
Huge head of hair. Huge. Yeah. That was with Stephanie Winslow, and she had a couple hits, and her career, her career went nowhere. But I think she did not like it. It's hard being on the road all the time and being pushed and having to. Being a young woman, she had to do, photo sessions, radio, photo sessions, gig, like that. I don't think she was built for that, and I think she wanted out.
Was there any specific catalyst that sent you out back towards the Wisconsin area after?
Yeah, when I lived in the West Coast, it was reasonably affordable. Towards the end of my wife and I lived there about 10 years. Towards the end, housing prices went like they did here in Appleton recently. They went straight up like that. There's no sideways then. There's no, I want to live here. I'll just sell my house and buy that house. There's none of that. It was just straight up, and it was a war. And the yuppies invaded. And they came with their Mercedes. You could see them. They looked so slick, and they came in, and they kind of wrecked everything. They always do.
Then you mentioned marriage brought you back.
Oh, the other thing that brought me back was my mother-in-law had become ill, and I missed Wisconsin very much. People always say, you moved here from San Francisco? I go, yeah, and it was the happiest day of my life. I was happy. I wanted to come back and to live in the Fox Cities, which I'd never done. It was all new to me.
Well, we'll break away from music for a bit. This is a good spot to talk about Wisconsinology, which I was reading for a while before I realized you were the one behind it.
Really?
It's if you've never heard of Wisconsinology, it's stories, quotes, podcasts. Looks like you started it in 2004, so it's been
roughly, yeah.
So I mean, that alone shows your love of Wisconsin and in the area.
I've had that my whole time here. When we moved from the Philippines, I'd gather facts and tell people, did you know that 2 miles from here, Ed Norvik's head got cut off and hanged on a tree by his wife? They go, no, And I'd go and look at the tree,
I love that. And if you've never been to the site, it's on Facebook, and you've got a website where you can find some different things. The podcasts are interesting, and you're also doing something with 91.1 The Ave where there's 5 minutes.
That's really fun. Yeah, it's Wisconsinology on music, 22 episodes. You can go to their page and listen to any one of them. And
they're really well done. You've got a really soothing voice. That you are one of the best storytellers I know. You get kind of caught into it, and it's not only interesting stuff, but it's really pleasant to listen to. And
I'm related to most of it. That's the part I left out. I've either played on the songs I'm spinning, or I know the musician and played in their band, or knew the person I'm talking about. Yeah. Except Les Paul. I do not know Les Paul.
You've never met?
Never met Les Paul, although he gave one of the greatest live shows I've ever seen in my life.
Where did he see Les Paul?
Dane County Coliseum, and he was a knockout. This is the 70s, and I'm still a teenager, and he performed alone, and he demonstrated the looper. He invented the looper, the guitar looper, for you musicians out there. Well, for you musicians out there, everything you do, Les Paul invented. I'm reminded of Les Paul just looking around. But he had a looper, and he did that one-man band thing, and he entertained. That's all that matters. That's
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see him as well. I never got the chance.
And he was, he was still, I'd say he was vital. A lot of people saw him late in life when he played his club gig in New York City. And I was always amazed that Les was so young at heart to the end of his life.
Something else I learned, Frank, you've got a Wisconsin Monsters and Myths, Monsters, Myths, and Legends poster.
That's right.
That you've made. It's a 18 by 24 handmade poster, and you've got your original art on there.
Yes, I do.
That's
Yeah.
available for sale. Very reasonable, too,
Yeah.
I might add.
It is reasonable. It's at Wisconsinology.com and Wisconsinology Facebook and Etsy Wisconsinology.
You also did a...
You got one?
I do not have one yet. I just found it last
I'll bring
night.
you one.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to bring you one over.
Well, I can order it, and then it's
No,
free shipping, by the way, everybody.
Free shipping in Appleton.
I want to ask you about, so we talked about Wisconsinology. Everybody should check that out. We'll get back to the music thing. How did you get involved with Smart Studios? What brought you in the doors?
Well, I've known, here's the thing. So we all have a band now called the Know-It-All Boyfriends. There they are. There they are. And we're old Madison guys of a certain vintage, and we all know each other. So I've known Butch Vig since 1976. So that's pretty much it. And I came back and connected with everybody again. And Butch was just ending his tenure with Firetown. And they'd had 2 LPs on Atlantic Records. That used to mean something, having a record deal or a label. Now it means absolutely nothing. But I just connected with everybody again. And actually, my first gig back, first session, was playing accordion.
Who was that with? Do you remember?
Of course I remember. Killdozer.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, Killdozer. Killdozer. Yeah.
12-Point Buck, one of the...
12-Point Buck.
Arguably what really started grunge.
Well, it did. I was lucky to be there right at that time. I didn't know what it was. It was labeled later. And even when I played with my favorite session day there was playing with 2 bands at the same time in 2 successive sessions in 3 hours. Crash Vegas, who was a label act from Canada, upstairs at Smart, and then Paw. And I played on Jessie, which is the closest thing to a hit I've ever played on. And the reason it's a hit is that it was on the soundtrack of a popular game called Road Rash. So every male of a certain age knows Jessie by Paw. It was also on Sir Paul McCartney's jukebox, which they were very proud of Paw.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But everything I've played on, everything always stops at number 50. Number 50 in the Canadian charts, number 50 on the Australian charts, number 50 on the Norwegian charts.
Were you keeping a list of all the projects that you played on? Or, I'm assuming you were just going in there. Sometimes you'd add something and leave and probably not even...
Never think about it.
Right.
I thought about Paw because I liked it. It rocked. It really rocked. And they wanted me to be sweet, play very recognizable pedal steel, as to be an opposing force against their hard rock. I was the sweet end. And it was fun. It was fun meeting them. The singer's such a great singer and a poet. Singing that song to his dog, who he has to part with. I still love listening to the words.
Well, what was the vibe like at Smart Studios? I know they were across the street, so it was just...
I think we were more concerned with going across the street to the bar, right across the street, and they'd serve beers, these cheap beers and cups, glass cups by that size, and you go like that, and another one, and then pretty soon you have like 15 or 20 of those things lined up. It was fun. And the bands all stayed at this crappy hotel called the Aloha Motel.
Which is still there.
Is it still there?
I looked. And trying to plan a Madison sort of site visit this summer, and the Aloha's still there. I looked it up on Google Maps.
Wow.
For anybody that might not know, the Aloha looks like a very rundown hotel. I don't know what it looked like in the 90s or 80s, probably the same. Okay. But it's right on Wisconsin, coming in before Smart Studios,
right.
About maybe a half mile or so.
Yeah. That's where everybody stayed before Nirvana hit big as it gets, #1 international. after that, everybody stayed in nice hotels, and they got all these requests for. Do you remember remixes? The remix craze.
Yeah.
So U2, Depeche Mode, all this stuff coming in. It was crazy.
And that all, but after Killdozer, it wasn't until Nirvana that thing started
Correct.
flooding in.
Yeah.
Was Killdozer somewhat of a Madison
Oh yeah.
secret at the time? I mean,
Not a secret. They had a little. You know, Killdozer. We all thought Killdozer would be once they announced it. Grunge is here. This is grunge. That Killdozer would break through and be the one, but instead, their fortunes sank as Smart Studios went up.
and again, if people aren't aware, Kurt Cobain heard 12-Point Buck and liked the sounds of the drums and everything, and that's what made him want to reach out to Butch Vig.
12-Point Buck sounded. That room was loud. But 12-Point Buck sounded amazing on earphone. You know, if you were playing along to 12-Point Buck, it was electrifying. It was great.
And that was that recorded at the first version of the last location, or was that recorded across the street in the Egg Carton warehouse version?
Not at the Egg Carton. That was recorded at right there. At the building we associate with Smart Studios. Although I recorded a number of things at the Egg Carton warehouse. But that was weird. I mean, you'd go down a long hall and hang a right, hang a left, hang a right, hang a left. And it was like those apartments down by the flats.
So it's kind of like an early version of a home studio?
Yeah, with egg gardens.
What other, I mean, I know some of your run-ins at Smart. Who else did he run into at Smart Studios that people might have heard of?
Really not, because I was always added after the track. So I'd be with people I knew. I mean, I remember Billy Corrigan before he was famous. I remember seeing him. No big deal, just saw him. His girlfriend was Courtney Love. And yeah, stuff like that. I didn't really Paw, who did not become famous, I spent a little time with, but not anybody else. I'd come in, you know, my full-time job was as an animator, and I'd drop by when I could. And I always said yes, because I loved seeing everybody again. It's like know-it-all boyfriends up there. It's just nice to see everybody.
When you heard that the Smart Studio story was being made by Wendy Schneider, you were a very heavy contributor to that film.
I wish I could have contributed more. I regret not filming during those years. But like anyone, when something's happening, you don't know it's happening.
Are you a nostalgic person, Frank?
Yes.
So
very much so.
Excellent. Some people aren't, which...
Well, no, but I'm also believe in moving forward, always moving forward, never look back. But still, you know, you can't help but feel nostalgic when you hear something on the radio. I mean, songs make me nostalgic, and that goes way back. The first time I visited Madison, we visited Madison, I was 8, and my mother loved the new music coming out, and this was the time of the Beatles and all that. So she took me to concerts, and she had this super cool Mustang, 1964 Ford Mustang, and stick me in the front seat, off we go. We see the Ventures, we see the Searchers, we see all these incredible hit makers of 1964 and 5. And we get to hang out with Gene Pitney. Do you know who that is?
I've heard the name. I'm not familiar
Listen
with the music.
to Gene Pitney. He rocks. But when I say someone rocks, I mean they put all their heart and soul into what they do. And he's kind of a crooner, but it's 100%. His whole soul is in it. So, yeah, he rocks. Unlike soft music people who don't. I mean, you can rock playing soft music, but I don't hear anyone doing that.
What were your feelings and emotions watching the finished product of the Smart Studio story?
Wendy did such a great job. She's great, and I like the way she films. Puts a camera up high behind her and kind of nonchalantly conducts an interview. She's great, and she's got a new film, which I have to see, coming out, Angels of Dirt. Yeah, I was thrilled that she was doing it. I mean, she's such a part of it. She's way more a part of it than I ever was. I came in and out all the time during, that era. She was an employee.
How many screenings did you go to for the film?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And I know one of them was up at Rock Garden Studios.
Yes, it was. That was fun.
I
don't think we slept that night. But you never sleep with Butch. Wants to rock. He wants to keep going. We cooked food late at night at the refuge and just kept it going. And I think I cranked out at 2, 3 o'clock. Butch is still upstairs in the church, jamming with someone.
That film is still available if people want to check it out on Amazon. I know you can rent it. There's also copies available. Like Frank said, Wendy did a great job. It's I think a must-watch for any music fan in the Wisconsin and beyond area, because just of how it touched music.
Absolutely. And to Wisconsinologize it, Wisconsin is famous for 3 studios, and they are the top end of their time. We're not talking about a studio that's very professional or really good. We're talking about #1 studio in the whole goddamn world. And the first one being, of course, in Grafton, Paramount Records, which recorded what are considered the greatest American recordings ever in 1929 to 31. And Smart is next in line. And one could argue, who's that soft music maker from Eau Claire?
Oh, Bon Iver?
Yeah, him.
I can never say that.
Yeah. That's the other one. Yeah.
I'm going to play a clip from the Smart Studios story now. It's just a short clip. It's Frank and Billy Corgan talking about people from the Midwest.
Oh, yeah, what an ass, right?
Here we go.
A lot of friends on the coast think we live in the tall pine trees, like the Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House in the Big Tall Woods, and that we don't have sidewalks.
Most of the people in the Midwest have a working class mentality. Your families are all working class. Your grandparents were working class, in most cases immigrant class.
It's easy to go to that cliche about hard working. That's not true at all, really. I met some of the laziest I've ever met are from the Midwest.
We don't grow up going to school with, the guy from Toto's Kids. We might know, oh yeah, my third cousin played in, the guy from Cheap Trick's side project. That was about as close as you came to anything.
God, he's such an Illinois guy. Did I just contradict him in that clip?
Yeah. People should check out that film. It's fantastic. And there are lots of people in there too. We've got Dave Grohl, Billy Corgan, Danita Sparks,
We've got
Shirley Manson, Butch, Steve Duke. I mean, it's a great film. All right, let's talk about some other stuff. Let's get more current. I know that this past Thursday you did a presentation about a
yes, about
exorcism.
A famous exorcist. Well, the most famous exorcist in American history is from Appleton. Yeah, Father Theophilus Riesinger.
Do you like doing this type of thing? I know you used to do this over at the refuge once in a while, and
yeah. I don't know if I do. I guess I do. I don't know.
People like listening, but I mean, is there a lot of work? There is. I don't even. That's not even a question. There is a lot of work that goes into it. But you make it seem so easy that I think people are.
It's not easy.
And as far as research that goes into that, are you like? Is it?
It's continual.
Okay, so it's something that you're not sure if you like. You probably like it when it's done.
It's such a relief when I'm done. Yeah, and I like moving on. Always moving on. My career in animation and live action film has always changed, and living in Appleton does not help. one's career when you're doing something where the end result ends up in Hollywood. So I've always had to change and always had to move on, and I got used to that. One door always closes, and animation would. And by the way, I do animation the old way. I come from the hand-drawn era, and I worked in some studios when they were still painting cells. And then from that ended because that ended. And then stop motion animation came right after that, then live action, then back to stop motion, then back. I had to keep changing. I had to keep changing or I wouldn't get paid. And I have to get paid. So all artists out there, your question is, where's the money? I mean, that's still my question. Someone naively could ask me, hey, I want you to do a stop motion project for me, right? But yeah, okay, I need $20,000 right now because you're asking, 4 months of my life, and I have these bills and blah, blah, blah. And that's the cheap price, super cheap price. So to keep that money rolling in, I had to keep changing. So it affected my mind. So my mind says, next, next, next. What's new, what's new, what's new? Maybe it's kept me young. I don't know.
Well, you've done quite a bit of work in both animation and film.
Yeah.
At the introduction, I mentioned the Life of Reilly.
Yeah.
And that was, I didn't know much about him before, but when it finished, I felt like I knew him. And then I started looking at other things that he did, like his appearances on Johnny Carson and things like that. Being a co-director for a film like that was like, first of all, when you're directing a film, what's your job as a co-director?
Well, I directed that with Barry Polterman, who I've known since 1991, 90. We have been collaborators on and off for a very long time. And he edited American Movie, which we all know, the Mark Borchardt, all that. And he also edited a lot of things that are on Netflix right now and HBO. The upcoming Paul Newman documentary, which was sold for a huge amount and will be premiering on HBO Max. He edited that. Ethan Hawke directed. I forgot your question. What does that entail? Well, it changes every day because Charles Nelson Reilly, who I really came to love and enjoyed, was mercurial. So on that particular project, we were just juggling, trying to keep up with Charles, if he had a bad day and our cameras were rolling and he's doing something on stage, we had to just go with the flow. Barry put that whole thing together over a year, and it was a mountain of editing. So I think he did a ton of the work. I added animated bits and music things later, anything we could to punch up the scenes. It ended up being, for a long time, it was the highest rated critical theatrically released film of 2006 or 7, I forgot which. And it held that. Its Wikipedia page is really amazing. I don't know who does those things, but I was surprised. Oh, look at that. I didn't know that.
Well, like you mentioned all the editing that went into it. You can kind of tell sometimes that the shots will switch and there'll be a subtle difference, but it's
Correct.
edited together so well that unless you're looking for it, you don't notice it.
Right. He's great. He's deservedly working on A projects right now.
And that was Charles' last performance.
Oh,
public performance, right? So public performance.
I was also a cameraman. I was also holding the camera Charles spent his whole life on the stage, and I was holding the camera when he stepped off the stage for the very last time.
What did he say to you? Because he says something, or he says
you
something.
Noticed that?
Yeah, I did notice that, but I couldn't make out what he was saying.
He said, "Thank you, God bless you." Then he held me and he said, "Thank you for smiling." Yeah, and it was so touching because I knew and he knew that was it. It was over, and it was really something. We followed him downstairs, and he made Manhattans for all of us, and that was thrilling, I thought. The film needed him to be alive. He died shortly after. There were a lot of bookings to The Tonight Show. Couldn't wait for Charles to return and supposedly make his 100th appearance. We had a lot of, and his death really hit the PR department hard, and it affected the film. I mean, no one wants us to see two directors plugging a film. I mean, that's moronic. They want to see the star.
And you got to meet Jerry Stiller. I saw there's a
many
picture
times.
of you guys. Yeah,
I worked with Jerry Stiller's. So I directed a lot of commercials, national commercials, and quite a lot of few. And I can't even remember half of them. And Jerry Stiller did VO on a couple. That was before The Life of Reilly. So Barry ran into Jerry Stiller at the Providence Film Festival, and I had a wonderful dinner in the Village in New York City with Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. And Ann Mira was flirting like mad, and I loved it, and it was a great time. She's a genius. Any subject, I couldn't switch, you know? We're almost playing a game like, can you talk about this? Yeah. Can you talk about that? Yeah. Can you talk about that? Oh, God, she's got me. You know?
So you met Jerry a bunch of times after the last episode of Seinfeld aired. Did you ever talk to him about the Seinfeld finale?
No, never. That never came up. Jerry actually thought he wasn't that guy. You know, when he acts, he's Jerry's dad all the time. It doesn't matter what he's in. He's Jerry's dad. He's, abrasive like that. And in real life, he's the sweetest man. He's very nostalgic, very, he'd break into tears, remembering something sweet or wonderful or warm. Exact opposite.
You did another film. You've done a lot of films, but the two that seem to be
I've done a lot of interstitials. That I've done more than anything.
This one that here seems interesting, and I might pronounce it wrong. Aswang.
Filipino vampire.
Yes, that one seemed interesting. It sounds like a friend of yours saw you do a lecture somewhere.
It's a short story by me.
And it kind of influenced him to write this screenplay about a vampire that's on a roof with a long tongue.
Loosely based on my short story, which is awesome.
Is that available anywhere in the short story?
No.
Well, then everybody wants to see it now.
Yeah,
I did. But I found the story of this movie interesting because they made it, and it sounds like it one of the film festivals, it was too gory, or there was too much gore in it or something.
Well, so going back again, Barry Polterman directed that. Our group, which is loose, it's a core of us who met in 1990, and we've made films ever since. And American Movie was propelled by our group, the reason it exists, things like that. So every project we've gone to Sundance or South by Southwest or wherever and sold it. So we had a real good track record, and that does not happen anymore. But back then, it was. What was your question?
It's about the movie and the goriness. And
the goriness. Well, when I was a little kid, I was afraid of the Aswang. Aswang's a Filipino vampire, right? And Filipino vampires is the deepest subject on this planet. There's like 800 of them. They all do different things. Some detach their bodies at the torso to fly around at night with their guts hanging out and bat wings, and they all do different things. They range everywhere from a horrific shape changer to a vampire that's just an annoying guy at the corner who whistles at women. I mean, that's the whole range of Filipino folklore vampires. So all of them are gory and all of them are bloody. This one was not so, I don't think it was bloody or gory, and it did well in Germany. They like that stuff, don't they?
I haven't actually seen the film. I have to come
that's
clean.
all right. That's all right. Yeah.
But that's what I read was, and who knows, people that write these, summaries online, there's probably some folklore involved in it, but
There's folklore involved in everything. Everything.
so is this film available anywhere?
I don't know. It was sold so many times. It changed hands.
It had a different name too.
Mondo Macabro, a specialist in international horror, I believe is handling it right now. And they're the ones who put up the new trailer. I haven't thought of it in ages personally, but
Until this morning.
yeah, you're amazing. Yeah. But you know what? It launched everybody's not career. It got us all up another step. All of a sudden, our guys knew the people at Sundance, and they expected a new movie, instead of submitting and hoping for the best. So it really helped. Everything you do pushes you up another level. But all musicians, all artists, all everybody, anybody who wants to be in the business of show business, you have to have a hit. You have to have a hit. And a hit is not, it'd be nice if it was a top 40 hit, but no matter what you do, animation, whatever, you got to have something that people know about, at least a little bit, or are talking about. Otherwise, that's your cachet. That's everything you are. Otherwise, you're adrift and making something new that you hope will be a hit. Although I wonder if Appleton cares about hits, our soft musicians.
Jury's out on that one, Frank. Let's talk about Joey's song, because there was supposed to be a concert performance this year, a benefit concert that was moved to
Correct.
2023. Joey's song does amazing things every year. I was blown away a couple of years ago. It went virtual, of course, because of COVID. And I was sitting at home watching, and there was a cover of When the Bullet Hits the Bone, and that's a song I used to listen to as a kid, and Dad used to play it. And the version you guys did, it was you, Butch, Jay Moran. I think I saw Pie in the end of the video.
Pie is all over that thing.
Duke, Alex, I think. There was a lot of contributors to it, but it was a great song. Which
You saw Alec. So the Know It All Boyfriends is all us Madison guys, and then me living here, dual citizenship, and Alex Drossert and Corey Chisel representing Appleton.
And then you guys had 3 songs that are available online to purchase, and that money will go towards Joey's song.
Joey's song, yes.
The videos are all online. I'm going to play one for you now for When the Bullet Hits the Bone. Were you upset that it was moved to next year? Do you think it was the right call?
Oh, it was. COVID was in full blizzard form. No, I wasn't upset. I knew it was going to happen. It's always nice to do Joey's song, but obviously that was impossible.
Dave Perner will be there.
More than that.
There is a website you can go to at Facebook and at Joey's. Just type in Joey's song. And
joeysong.org.
Let's talk about what you're doing currently, and what by current, the last 7 years musically. You had the Emperors of Wyoming, which was a project you did with Butch, and your brother was in there?
My brother and Phil Davis, who is a lead singer of Firetown, one of Butch's bands.
And then you guys played at Mile of Music. How was that experience?
Oh, that was fine. It was all right.
I know you did the chapel, and then you did, was it one of the sports bars downtown?
Sports bar. Well, I don't know what that bar was. We set up in 5 minutes, and all I heard was a roar. I mean, just roar. Whatever. I did.
I'm guessing the chapel show was more fun than the.
Yeah. Chapel show was much more fun.
Was it kind of fun to bring Butch up here and bring him around and show him?
He had a lot of fun. We had a real nice time, and he did not want to leave. He was having. Butch is just a regular guy. He's a nice guy, and he did not want to leave. But what's the name of that band? Green Day. The lead guy, what's the lead guy?
Billy Joel Armstrong?
Yeah, demanded that he fly back and do another mix because he heard, I hate that shit. You know, just mix the damn album and get it out. I don't care if you hear some little something that's not right. No one else does either. And theory time, each time you mix a record, you make it worse. Each time you replay something, you make it worse. The whole goal is to capture the spirit and essence of that initial urge or rush you had as a musician. There. Ask me another one.
I see that the Emperors of Wyoming, they've got a full album out, self-titled album in 2015, and then 2017 a single called "Burn in Hell," which
Oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Well, I never heard about it till I started doing a little research, and then it's a great song. Is that just one that was left over, or was that a newer song?
That was an attempt. Not that we sold a few thousand records in Europe. We did pretty good in Europe, but it's okay. It wasn't a big success. Burn in Hell was an attempt to get the group back together, and it did not work. Well, I'm done. So when you're done, you're done. It's time to move on. As I was talking earlier, you have to move on.
So no chance Emperors of Wyoming?
No.
Okay. Done deal. Stick a fork in it?
Yep.
What else have you been busy with lately? I know you were playing with the Boy Howdy band.
Boy Howdy, great. Yeah, Riley Crow. He's great. And Boy Howdy and the Electric Ranch Hands. You like that?
I love it. Saw you guys play at one of the parks.
Yeah.
Great performance.
Oh, I mean, it's a great band.
And also, I wanted to ask you about the Best Westerns.
I was in that band a very long time. I had replaced a legend. His name is Eddie Rivers, and he's a great, great Western swing steel player, probably the best in the land. I replaced him, and I've been waiting for him to come back. It took a long time, and he finally came back, so he's in the band. I urge everyone to go and see him.
Have you seen the band as a observer since you
No,
left?
because it's wintertime. I hate gigging in wintertime. I just don't do things like that. I don't drive at night in wintertime.
If anybody has a question for Frank, he's agreed to stick around for a little extra time. So we're going to
stick around as long as you want.
We're gonna push this into Sunday morning. But there's a number if you want to call in. Some people like calling in, some don't. The number is 920-358-0795. Otherwise, leave a comment in the chat. Otherwise, Frank and I'll just keep talking here. What's your opinion on the scene in the Fox Cities, pre-Mile Music and post-Mile Music?
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
No, this is a long thing. When I was young, a teenager playing 200 nights a year, some of the best bands and signed bands who had record label deals were from the Fox Valley. There was Soup, there was the White Duck country rock band from Fond du Lac, and some of the best vocalists were always from the Fox Valley. They had a lively scene up here. And we were frightened of them because they always had such good singers. Flash forward. It's just nothing but cover bands when I arrive. It's Vic Ferrari land, and Vic Ferrari's the king of Vic Ferraridom. And no slight on that. I mean, you want to hear the first sentence I ever heard in my life in Appleton, Wisconsin? I was here. We're looking for a home. I was getting a coffee. A woman in front of me, I saw Vic Ferrari last night. And I'm listening. I don't know what a Vic Ferrari is. And she goes, if you close your eyes, they sound just like that Elton John record I got. And I thought, holy shit. And thank God original music came in the form of Corey Chisel, who, by the way, was signed by Clive Davis. I don't know if people know this. Clive Davis only signs great singers. Corey's great singer. He signed Barbra Streisand. He signed Whitney Houston. He only signs great singers. So That was an explosion of fresh air, and it changed the scene completely, totally. And now we have people writing their own songs. Great. Just write some rockers, people.
Have you ventured out often during Mile of Music?
Often.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
What
Yeah.
what venues do you seem to migrate towards? Any specific place?
No. I want to see new. I like new. I listen to new music all the time. I want new. I want someone who's got some showbiz in them. They're going to entertain you. I began this interview talking about the Goose Island Ramblers, who entertained the living shit out of everyone who ever saw them. They still haven't forgotten. They didn't just stand there and play. I often wonder people who are, well, I suppose they're introverts when they stand there and just real quiet and they just sing. And quiet is a thing. You can rock quiet, as long as you're, we can see that quality in you as an audience. No, I go see everything, and it's interesting to me because I've had such a long career playing. I see people in various stages of their career, and I know exactly what's going on. I see a guy, I remember seeing a solo performer, and he's traveling with his wife or girlfriend, and she was sick of it and fed up and I thought she was going to get up and drive away during his performance. It was, I've seen it. And the road wears you down. I feel bad for a lot of the bands because I know that feeling. Except when I did it, when I was on the road, I was famous for walking off tour buses or walking away from gigs. I didn't want to put up with that shit. I don't think a gig is important. If it's oppressive, if it's wrong, if it's just not going to work in any way, shape, or form, no matter what you do. I don't believe in entertaining one person in a room. I'm out. But other people do, don't they?
How is the scene up here different from the scene in Madison?
Right now? Madison's dead. Appleton's got the coolest. Appleton has the most vibrant music scene, or it did before COVID. The Fox Cities, fantastic. It reminds me of the old days. But Madison, it's just dead. There's nowhere for them to play. There's artists pop up, but then they leave town. They move to Nashville, things like that.
Do you feel that the closing of Smart Studios had anything to do with that?
No, well, of course. But Smart, that was, I don't know. Scenes happen, they don't happen, they happen, they don't happen. It's like the many phases of a basketball game. You're hot, you're not. You're hot, you're not. You're hot, you're not.
You mentioned you like to see Appleton be a little more rocking.
Yes. Well, it doesn't at all right now. It's just, yeah. I mean, are you the only rocking band in Appleton?
There's some other rocking bands in Appleton.
Please point me at them.
I plead the fifth right now, Frank, so I'd have to think about it. I'm not prepared.
But I don't get me wrong. I love bands. I love musicians. It takes so much to go up on stage. So much. And for a solo performer to go up on stage, my God, that's the greatest act of courage known. I've done it, as a instrumentalist, one-man steel guitar. It is mind-numbingly frightening. At my age, it's frightening,
Do you still have a studio at the Refuge?
No. No one does. It's empty, I believe.
Okay. So when you were working out of that studio, was it easier to get things done? And
that was more when I did effects work and stop motion work and animation work. Yeah, it was easy. You got to have a lot of room.
So doing what you do, does it make it harder to do it in your own home versus going into an office and being separated from?
It's impossible. And I've tried to get my stop motion career up and running in the past 3-4 years, and it just is one big shut door. I need a lot of things in place in order for that to happen. But it opened another door. I had to move on. And that door is writing. Most of my time is writing.
You do have that book that we didn't even really talk about.
Oh, no, that's a trifle. I'm talking about screenwriting.
Oh, screenwriting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just a little fun guidebook for the valley.
Like how you refer to that as just a little fun book. Like most people, that would be like the crowning achievement to have.
I did
to have
that.
book.
I did that in 4 months, and it was in the most insane 4 months of my life because I was directing full time and animating full time. So I wrote Wicked Fox Cities between the hours of 12 midnight and 4 a.m. over that period. Hey, I like that.
That's a
Sump pump.
It's
That's my basement, by the way. Which don't anybody ever go there.
so how do your kids feel about your history with in the music and all the stuff you've done? Are they proud?
Yeah.
Are they interested in it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They've seen it. I brought them along. My son came to animation studios when he was little. He's an animator now, filmmaker, and you know when he was 12 years old, we'd be in Chicago at some big studio that I was working for, and he'd get to go open all the little stop motion drawers full of anything building material or fun thing you needed or wanted to make a creature or a dinosaur or something like that. And he got to see that. And I remember my daughter loved following the afterlife of Life of Reilly when I did film festivals all across America. She came to some showings and yeah, I mean, they're both interested in what I am interested in some way.
And your wife is very supportive. I met her. She's a very, very kind and generous woman. So what's on the horizon for you, Frank? What can we expect out of you in the next year or two besides the Know-It-All Boyfriends Joey's benefit concert next year?
Well, you can expect a rocking steel guitar album that you might want to listen to as opposed to 99.9% of steel guitar albums, which I can't because they depress me.
Is this in progress right now?
Yes, it is.
Not
at a studio. I'm woodshedding the tunes so I can knock them down in 2 takes.
Any other insight on what we can expect from this album?
Besides that it's going to rock. You can't get any higher than that. I'm just woodshedding. I'm in my dreaded cold, damp basement with my amps cranked and my chain of fuzz pedals, just like they were in 1979, ready to go.
Well, I can't wait to hear that. Frank, thank you for joining me today. And I admire you, and it was an honor to sit down and talk with you for the last hour. Thanks for coming on Code Zero Radio this morning.
Thank you. Can I have another coffee?
You sure can. You've been listening to WCZR Code Zero Radio.